Chapter 41, A Simple Leave. When Blue River and the others left the dungeon, Bound Boat and Flower Lantern were still waiting outside. Before the party went up on TV, the two had already prostrated before Lord Grimm in admiration. They were the original party members and they clearly knew the party's strength. Lord Grimm was 100% the reason that they were able to break the clear record by 5 minutes. Flower Lantern, who had previously doubted Lord Grimm, also felt extremely embarrassed. Finally, he mumbled, "You really are a god. I bow down, I bow down. I was lacking in manners before." On the other side, Bound Boat asked Thundering Light how they cleared the dungeon. Thundering Light spoke, splattering spittle everywhere. Returning Cloud and Lunar Grace repeatedly raised their eyebrows. "Could you be any more ridiculous? If you say it like this, then it seemed like we cleared the dungeon in 10 minutes. Okay, the clear record has been broken," Yishu said to Blue River. Right, right. Strong, strong, Blue River immediately agreed. Brother, Yishu greedily said. Here, here. The items, Yishu said. What items? Oh, look at me. I was so happy I forgot. Blue River finally realized that the other side was talking about the promised items. Bound Boat, the items. Blue River hadn't carried the items on him. Only after Blue River confirmed that they would break the record did Bound Boat go and retrieve the items. In Glory, the characters' movement, jumping, and speed were all affected by how much weight they carried. As a result, when going for clear records or engaging in PK, times when they needed to be at their strongest point, players did their best to lighten up their inventory. Bound Boat took the items and asked Lord Grimm to trade. Yishu accepted and the items were put into the trade box. Astonishingly, there were 72 strong spider silk, 2 mithril pendants, and 8 white wolf sharp fangs. What? Yishu didn't understand. This was his initial proposal and wasn't the deal he had haggled for. Brother, directly beating the clear record by 5 minutes, you don't know how much effort you've saved us, Blue River said. Oh, so it's like this. Yishu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't need these materials to sell. They were all for upgrading the Myriad Manifestation Umbrella. He only needed 24 strong spider silk. Proposing 72 at the start was just to leave some space for haggling. But in the end, the other side was more than happy to give him 72. Who didn't want free stuff? Yishu certainly did, so he bluntly accepted it. Then again, what Blue River said also made a lot of sense. Beating the clear record by 5 minutes, it really did save them a lot of time. Otherwise, if they hadn't, who knew how many times they'd have to contest with the other guilds. Thanks, Yishu said. You're welcome. Brother, look, right when he spoke half a sentence, he suddenly grew frantic. Left. Why did he leave already? After accepting the items, he actually just directly left the guild. Blue River was just about to ask him to stay in their guild. He gave him more items for 2 reasons. One was to reward him for clearing the dungeon. And the other was because he recognized that he was a super expert and deserved to be bribed. If only I knew, Blue River thought in grief and indignation. This price had become a business deal when it should have been a way to make friends with him. What should I look at? Yishu, who already left, asked Blue River, who had only spoken half a sentence just a moment ago. Do you have any space on your friends list? Let's work together later, Blue River said without spirit. Okay, Yishu said. Brother, do you need to run a dungeon? Are you missing anyone? If you are, just ask me and I'll call people for you, Blue River said. Oh, I don't need it. I have other things to do. I'll be going first then, Yishu said. Oh, bye-bye, Blue River's cheeks streamed with tears as he sent Lord Grimm off. Thundering Light, Bound Boat, and the others had already seen the "Lord Grimm has left the guild" message in the guild channel. They were all astonished. When they saw him leave, they immediately recovered. Why did he leave? Returning Cloud asked. Work's done, so of course he's going to leave, Blue River said unhappily. Why didn't we keep him? Bound Boat asked. With his APM. Him leaving was faster than me speaking, Blue River said. This had to do with APM? Everyone was dumbstruck. This Blue River had turned stupid from anger. Roping in this type of expert just relying on benefits won't work. With his skill, coming over to help us would be the same as the benefits we can give. So he didn't have to think twice. It's more important to establish a relationship, Bound Boat said. Right. I originally thought like that, but, Blue River gloomily concluded. What had originally been a way to establish a revolutionary friend in the dungeon had become a business transaction. Aye, let's use a honey trap. Hurry up and notify the leader to bring some beauties over, Thundering Light said. Cough cough, someone coughed. Then let's match him with Lunar Grace, Thundering Light added. Lunar Grace remained silent and only looked at Lord Grimm, who hadn't completely disappeared out of sight yet. Lunar, you've been looking in that direction, huh? Could it be you? Flower Lantern circled around Lunar Grace twice. You've already been itching to go at it, Thundering Light said. Lunar Grace didn't notice what he said and calmly said, don't you guys feel that he's too strong? Everyone was startled and immediately went silent. We're already considered top-tier experts in glory, right? Even if we weren't, Blue River definitely is, right? But it looks to me that this guy's still better by a level. Then what level of an expert would he be at? Lunar Grace said. Cough cough, I haven't played on a low-leveled account in a while, Blue River said. We're all low-leveled, Lunar reminded. His weapon was better than mine. I think it's an orange weapon, Blue River said. He still hasn't changed classes, Lunar reminded again. In short, everyone all had their good and bad points. Fine, I concede. I'm afraid this person's skill is higher than mine. Blue River discovered that he couldn't struggle for his face back, but Glory has so many players, how can there not be some hidden experts? It's not like we haven't seen one. For example, Poplar Beach. Once this name was mentioned, everyone suddenly went silent. They all knew that his was a name that Blue River didn't like. This person was Blue Brook Guild's recent focus of attention. He didn't have much of a name before. But in a short period of time, in the heavenly domain, he showed his strength in all sorts of battles. As the guild placed more and more value on him, his equipment grew better and better. A lot of people in the Blue Brook Guild had already discussed whether the 5 grade experts should be updated. Of the 5 grade experts, the one who had been compared the most with Poplar Beach was Blue Bridge Spring Snow, Blue River's main account, because the two players' classes were the same, they were both Blade Masters. Blade Masters, due to their wuxia-like playstyle, were Glory's most popular class. And after Poplar Beach was discussed about, he wasn't modest at all. He would often show off his damage records, kill records, what expert he beat in the last arena battle, how he single-handedly dueled how many people in a wild area, and so on, in the guild channel. He clearly wanted to show his superiority over Blue Bridge Spring Snow, who almost went and directly challenged him to a duel around. Before that happened, Blue River was ordered to be the leader in the 10th server. In the guild, there were already many rumors saying that this was the guild intentionally giving Poplar Beach a spot by deliberately moving Blue River away. Chapter 42, A good that could be bought. Blue River was a person who worried about losing face. Being mocked by Poplar Beach made him feel as if his face would fall off. Finally, he took the initiative to invite Poplar Beach and was ready to compare notes in the arena. Poplar Beach was waiting for this opportunity, so he happily accepted. Members of the same guild often compared notes in the arena. But the members of Blue Brook Guild all knew that this battle wasn't so simple. Whoever won this battle would decide who had the qualifications to be recognized as one of Blue Brook Guild's 5 grade experts. The result was that this battle was never completed. At that moment, Blue Brook Guild's leader announced that Blue River would bring members to the Pioneer in the 10th server. Blue River temporarily left the heavenly domain and began busily in the new server. The not-so-happy part was that he was also temporarily put aside. The sudden appearance of Lord Grimm made him think of Poplar Beach. His friends didn't know what to say in response. Silence. Blue River suddenly received a message. He opened it and saw it was from Plantago Seed. Ha ha ha. Why'd the expert suddenly leave after you beat the record? Blue River was startled and then immediately said angrily, how shameless. You've put a spy into our guild? Don't be like this. It's not like you haven't put in any spies either, Plantago Seed said. I still haven't, Blue River said justly and confidently. Mutual spies was indeed common. But because it was only the second day on the new server, Blue River hadn't done so yet. If you're proper, you'd better not put in any, Plantago Seed messaged. Blue River had a sudden strike of inspiration and replied, "Ha ha, if you've actively recruited our players in, then you can only blame your lame eyes." Plantago Seed received the message and was startled. "What do you mean?" Blue River didn't reply. "Gee, I know you're just trying to scare me. Old Blue, don't use this sort of small trick, it's too childish," Plantago Seed remarked. "I don't have time for you. I'm going to go level," Blue River replied. Blue River went on to do his own business, while Plantago Seed was still standing there confused. When the spy reported to him that Lord Grimm had already left Blue Brook Build, he laughed out loud. While he was preparing to rope him in, he just had to message Blue River. But who would have thought that Blue River would have said such a peculiar line? It seemed as if Lord Grimm had been intentionally let out for the other big guilds to recruit. Plantago Seed felt that it was Blue River deliberately mystifying the situation, but he didn't dare to be absolutely confident. With regards to spies, it wasn't easy to protect against them in this game. Being excessively confused about them would only add to his worries. But Lord Grimm was different. This was a great expert. If he came into the guild, he would definitely be an important figure. He wasn't that type of casual character. If this type of person was a spy, then that would be a disaster. Glory once had a guild that didn't lose to the three great guilds in strength, but it was destroyed because of spies. At that time, all of the guild's highly regarded experts were spies from other guilds. Finally, when the spies' influence matured, they unmasked themselves and exposed the truth. A bunch of players and goods left the guild, greatly injuring the guild's strength. But the even deadlier attack was that when the guild began recovering its power, the central core figures also exposed themselves as F***king spies. In the end, at a crucial point of time, another batch of people left and they lost more power. Thus, the once powerful guild collapsed. After this event, Glory's guilds were all extremely cautious about their top experts. The bigger the guild, the more cautious they were. Moreover, in the major spy event, the champions did so in the new server. Newly recruited players in the guild would start from the bottom and then slowly slaughtered their way to the heavenly domain. These people were tenacious and worthy of being called Glory's greatest spies. And now this Lord Grimm? He suddenly sprang up in the 10th server and became the focus of attention. This type of person would definitely be fought over by the famed guilds. But was this person a spy? Nowadays, would a spy really be so high profile? Plantago Seed sighed with sorrow, but still decided to contact Lord Grimm. As long as he took precautions on how much power to give him, then it would be okay. Lord Grimm, who had left Frost Forest, now headed towards Bulls. Frost Forest was located in the southwest border zone. Bulls was a nearby town. No matter what server a player was in, this place was the first place new players from Beginner Village would set foot in, so there was never any lack of liveliness. After Lord Grimm left Beginner Village, he directly ran to Frost Forest and didn't have time to register Bulls as his resurrection location. At this location, after the character died, he would resurrect there. This was one of Glory's rules. Bull's town wasn't big, but it had all of the basic facilities. Yishu let Lord Grimm first go to a warehouse and put in his newly obtained strong spider silk and other materials into there. Seeing that his storage chest had 88 strong spider silk, Yishu could only laugh and shake his head. After leaving 48 strong spider silk there, the rest of the items had all been taken by Yishu to the equipment editor's material library. Right when he was about to go into the equipment editor, a message suddenly leapt up. He opened it and saw that it was from 7 Fields. Congratulations brother expert, before, when we were clearing the dungeon, we saw your Frost Forest clear record. How awesome, 7 Fields message. Ha ha, it was nothing. Have you joined Blue Brook Guild? 7 Fields asked. No, I just helped them beat the record, so I only temporarily joined. I've already left, Yishu said. Huh? 7 Fields was astonished. How many times have you run the dungeon? Yishu suddenly asked. 2 times, 7 Fields said. Are you missing a person? I can still run it 3 more times. Yishu suddenly thought to first reach the entry limit. We do. Of course we do. 7 Fields was first startled and then immediately recovered from the shock. Brother Expert still unexpectedly wanted to dungeon with them. That really was too good. I'll go over right away. Yishu immediately made Lord Grimm leave the warehouse and hurried over to Frost Forest. 7 Fields and the others were only normal gamers and didn't have the skills like Bluebrook Guild's experts did. Yishu would have cleared faster with Bluebrook Guild's people. But he preferred to go with 7 Fields and the others. He saw through the big guild's intent to rope him in. He also knew that with Bluebrook Guild's strength, they could easily provide for the myriad manifestation umbrella's materials. However, joining a guild meant that he would owe some kind of responsibility and commitment to the guild. The guild would provide a party to dungeon, level, and complete quests, but on the other hand, the guild also required that he would have to help others dungeon, level, or complete quests. Yishu didn't want to have his hands and feet tied like this. As for peak experts like him, not joining a guild also meant that he had the chance to cooperate with any guild. Today, he helped Bluebrook Guild set a new clear record. Next time, he could help Herb Garden. People with some ability to judge would realize his value. Every guild that wanted to set a new record would all look for him to help. In this way, staying as a good that could be bought was better than joining a guild and hanging himself on a tree. How could this not be more beautiful? Chapter 43, Don't Need a Cleric. 7 Fields and the others had also only just left the dungeon. Under that endless night's lead, the second half of the dungeon went by smoothly. From this, it could be seen that this guy's skill was higher than theirs and that he was an extremely experienced expert. But 7 Fields and the others didn't worship him. In fact, they couldn't see it. It wasn't only immersed jade. They themselves had already been poisoned by Lord Grimm. Endless Night was already considered extremely skilled among players, but they couldn't see his skill at all. After they left the dungeon, this guy just stood loftily on one side with a "come on, shower me with praise" look. In the end, he received a message: "You have been kicked out of the party." F***ck, disgraceful. How could you kick me? Endless Night was infuriated. Didn't you have something to do? Hurry up and go do it, 7 Fields said. Now I don't, Endless Night said. Oh, so sorry, there's no space anyways. We have a friend coming, 7 Fields said. Endless Night heard this and his eyes brightened. He immediately remarked, "Is it that Lord Grimm?" "What does that matter to you?" 7 Fields said. In the end, Endless Night refused to leave and shamelessly circled around the 4 of them. 7 Fields felt vexed and had the heart to chop this guy to pieces. But he was an expert from tyrannical ambition, so 7 Fields didn't dare pull off an evil scheme. If he didn't want to leave, then what was his purpose? 7 Fields guessed and came to a conclusion. He couldn't help but feel even more annoyed. To fight with this type of expert, they wouldn't win. With their mediocre strength, they were already lucky to be able to dungeon with Brother Expert a few times. Right now, if a tyrannical ambition expert chose him, would Brother Expert still play with them? They had only known each other for a day and still weren't really friends yet. Right when his thoughts were in turmoil, Lord Grimm's figure had already gradually approached. Immersed Jade had already yelled, "God!" In the game, the louder the voice, the farther it would go. But the problem was that the sound volume depended on the real person to produce. They could imagine Immersed Jade at this moment, whether she was at her house or in an internet cafe, she was truly shouting this. If there were other people nearby, she'd look quite foolish. Lord Grimm put away his battle lance, which could be considered his greeting. 7 Fields and the others were ready to meet him, but Endless Night ran faster than a rabbit. With a whoosh, he had already rushed forward. "You're Lord Grimm? It's an honor to meet you. I am Endless Night, an expert from tyrannical ambition." Endless Night introduced himself. "Hi," Yishu responded and then turned around to ask 7 Fields, "Your friend?" "That's right, Brother 7 Fields and I became good friends in this dungeon," Endless Night said. F***ck, who are you? Seven Fields had never seen such a shameless guy. Brother Seven Fields, don't be like that, Endless Night said. Seven Fields wanted to kick this guy to death. He first gave Brother Expert a party invite while yelling at Endless Night, "We're going. Go do your own business. Bring me two, Endless Night repeatedly yelled. How was this an expert? When they carried newbies in the old server, even they weren't as shameless as this. They at least typed it out. There's no space, Seven Fields said. Good sister, can you give your spot to brother? Endless Night had even found the party's weak spot and shamelessly bothered Immersed Jade. Since Immersed Jade was a newbie and had never seen such a shameless guy, she was at a loss. Not knowing what to do, she looked as if she were going to compromise with that guy, when Yishu suddenly interrupted. Are you a cleric? Yishu asked. Yup, my skill is very good, expert. While Endless Night said this, he brought out that bright silvery cross. Seven Fields all didn't recognize that item, but they could see that it was definitely a good item. Crystal cross, an orange weapon, Yishu said. Wow, you really are an expert. Good eye. Why don't you bring me along? Endless Night praised. We don't need a cleric, Yishu said. Instant kill. This was an instant kill. A 5-word instant kill. The previously lively Endless Night went speechless. Seven Fields and the others truly did worship Brother Expert. We don't need a cleric. Wow, how powerful. If he was switched with a normal player and the player stood outside Frost Forest and said, we don't need a cleric, even Seven Fields would call him out for boasting. But Brother Expert was different. If Brother Expert said they didn't need a cleric, they obviously didn't need a cleric. Cleric, go play somewhere else. Go in, Seven Fields loudly said. No one paid any more attention to Endless Night. Endless Night just stood there like a statue and saw the party go into the dungeon. Brother Expert, how do we kill? Seven Fields entered and then directly asked Lord Grimm. I'll pull and you guys just do your best to output damage, Yishu said. Although One Wave Rush's hardest part was on the MT's ability to pull monsters, it also had high requirements for other players. With these guys, Yishu didn't have confidence in their damage. With Brother Expert watching over, Seven Fields and the others felt that clearing this dungeon would be carefree and relaxed. Only the student Immersed Jade wasn't sensible and unexpectedly asked Brother Expert, God, can we set a new record? Wasn't this question disgracing yourself? There was no way they could set a new record. The problem wasn't Brother Expert, but rather on them. Seven Fields and the others all felt ashamed and helped Brother Expert answer this embarrassing answer. They advanced through the dungeon smoothly. They gave all of the items dropped by the boss to Yishu. Only, if there was equipment their classes were proficient in, Yishu still gave them. They breezed through the dungeon twice. The hidden boss never appeared and no amazing equipment dropped. Lord Grimm could still run the dungeon once more, but Seven Fields and the others had already reached the entry limit. They could only regretfully leave. In the end, when they left the dungeon, they saw Endless Night standing outside. The first time they went through, this guy had already left. Seeing these five, Endless Night immediately ran over. No more runs left, the little punk happily said, which made Seven Fields have an exceptionally strong urge to beat him up. Endless Night had known that they could only run the dungeon twice more. I can still run it once, Yishu said honestly. What a coincidence. I can run it once more too, Endless Night said. Is that so? Yishu laughed. There's still something that's an even bigger coincidence. See, I have 3 friends who can only run it once more too. Don't you think that's even more coincidental? Endless Night said. 3 people had already come over from the crowd. Their guild name Tyrannical Ambition displayed above their heads. That really is a coincidence, Yishu said. Since it's such a coincidence, why don't we just all run it together? Endless Night said. Why don't we set a new record again? Yishu asked. Okay, Endless Night was extremely excited. If we're going to set a new record, then I have 2 conditions, Yishu said. You can say them. 1. I charge a fee, Yishu said. Oh, that'll be easy, Endless Night said, and the other. We don't need a cleric, Yishu laughed. Chapter 44, Different Fees. Ha 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 ha, 7 Fields and the others laughed out loud. Now that was an act. Previously, immersed Jade made them look a bit foolish to the bystanders when she yelled out God. But this time, their laughter had already made the bystanders think they were mentally ill. The many players that heard this loud laughter all turned around to look. In the end, they saw a player called Endless Night furiously type out around 20 exploding cartoon faces in the common chat box. What happened? The players all asked each other, but no one knew. As a result, everyone carefully shifted their characters over and tried to listen in. Then, they heard Endless Night, who had just relentlessly raged in the chat box, grind his teeth and say, "Then what class do you need? 3 fire elementalists with magic attacks greater than 430. A level 22 or up doll Shururu auto leveled, and a witch that can use Shadow Cloak. Their technique needs to be good and their hands need to be steady. They can't make any mistakes," Yishu said. Endless Night stared blankly. Bringing 3 elementalists, this was a party with the highest DPS. Elementalists had low defense and low health. Witches only wore leather armor, which was just a bit better. The entire party all had extremely high attack but low defense. 1 OT could spell utter destruction. It was sure enough, a zero mistake party. Zero mistake meant that they couldn't afford to make a single mistake. As for this type of harsh requirement, Endless Night didn't have too many complaints because the current record was 20 hours 24 minutes and 11 seconds. If they wanted to break this sort of record, they naturally needed to use extremely harsh methods. If a member made a mistake, then saving him would waste a lot of time. This would only destine their party for failure. I might not be able to gather such a party right now, Endless Night said. Actually, it wasn't just right now, they weren't able to gather such members in such a short period of time. It wasn't only tyrannical ambition, other guilds didn't have 3 fire elementalists with 430 magic attack and above either. 430 magic attack signified that the weapon had to be a level 20 purple staff. How could a purple staff be so easy to find? Not to mention, it had to be a fire element one too. Currently, tyrannical ambition had 3 purple elementalist weapons and unfortunately, none of them were of the fire element. No problem. When they've been gathered, contact me again, Yishu said. Besides that, are there any other options? Endless Night said. Level 25, Yishu said. Level 25 was a completely different realm. New equipment, new skills, everyone's strength increased. Like this sort of level 20 to 25 Frost Forest dungeon, in the old servers, all of the records were made by a party of level 25s. Fine, I'll add you first as friend then, Endless Night said. Okay, Yishu and Endless Night added each other as friends. After Endless Night, who had pretended to be decent, friended him, he revealed his true colors. Then, we don't need to set a record right now. All of us can do one more run. Why don't you come with us for a run? F*CK, 7 Fields and the others gasped in surprise. This person truly was an immortal, invincible, shameless, ultra, unequaled C*Croach. Okay, but Yishu also replied, I can lower the fee a bit then. You need to charge a fee for this too? Don't tell me you charge them a fee too, Endless Night said. I didn't charge a fee, but all of the equipment was given to the party leader. I was the party leader, Yishu said. That's fine, we can do the same, Endless Night said delightedly. 7 friends and the others listened to this and felt extremely uncomfortable. In their party, all of the equipment really did go to Brother Expert, but they knew Brother Expert was kind and honest. He never fought over items that suited them. When they were at the spider cave, he even gave the purple weapon to Sleeping Moon, a player who had been on bad terms with him. As you can see, I still haven't changed classes, so I want all of the equipment, Yishu said. It's just a few equipment, that's all. Go, let's head out. Endless Night repeatedly sent party invites. They were all automatically declined by the system because he was still in a party. Finally, Yishu left his party and had Lord Grimm join Endless Night's party. This was a standard 1 MT, 1 healer, 3 DP Sirs party. Once Lord Grimm joined, Endless Night gave the party leader position to him. Then let's go, Yishu directed Lord Grimm into the dungeon. Go. Endless Night led the three others and caught up. He was still very satisfied with this outcome. He wasn't worried about the record. He just wanted to see how good Lord Grimm really was. Ice and snow drifted in Frost Forest. Everywhere was silent. The 5 people stood there in a line. No one moved and no one talked. A static screen stayed there for about half a minute. Hey, Endless Night seemed as if he was testing his headphones. What are you haying for? Yishu asked. Did someone say something? I haven't heard anyone say anything, Endless Night said. I don't think anyone said anything, right? Yishu said. No one said anything, the other 3 agreed. Why aren't you talking? Endless Night said. Who are you asking? You. Why do I need to speak? Yishu asked in response. To lead, Endless Night said. I'm leading? Yes. Leading fee. 20 exploding faces were typed, the other 3 were all in chaos. Brother, you're not going that far, are you? Haha, Yishu laughed. What's the leading fee? Endless Night discovered that he had met his match today. Sigh, no other way. Who told me to curry favor with this guy? Endless Night thought angrily. 10 white wolf bristles, Yishu said. Brother, how evil. The 4 all said in unison. The white wolf's hair wasn't the bristle. The bristles had a chance to drop by Frost Forest's hidden boss White Wolf. It was considered an uncommon material. I don't have to lead, Yishu said. Endless Night thought for a bit. In order to see an expert's inner qualities and skill, he had to see his leading for himself. As a result, he clenched his teeth and said, fine, but I can only give it after we exit the dungeon. I didn't bring any with me. Can I trust his word? Yishu asked the other 3. Big guilds wouldn't go back on their word. For example, after he made the deal with Blue River, Yishu trusted Blue River. But this Endless Night was so outrageously shameless, so he had to express his doubts. You can trust him, the other 3 said immediately. Okay then, Yishu replied. Hurry up and go, Endless Night said. Okay. MT pull the monsters. DP sirs go up. Healers support the mount, Yishu directed. The 4 stared blankly and their screens seemed to be frozen again for half a minute. That's it? Endless Night asked. Of course. What type of leading is this? Endless Night crumbled. You're all experts. You guys should know what to do, Yishu said. Endless Night felt that he had been duped. If he used the standard routine, then their party didn't need any leading. Everyone could do it on their own and they'd be fine. No good. I have to make sure these 10 white bristles are worth their price. No, this won't work, Endless Night called. You have to lead us step by step. Okay. Yishu said, Knight, pull the 2 goblins at 10 o'clock. There are 3 possibilities. If the 2 are long-range, get close to them as fast as possible. If you're attacked while you're closing in, use Descending Phoenix Hammer. You'll be able to jump over their attacks and the shockwave will cause the 2 monsters to flip over. When you've gotten close, pull any one of their aggros steadily. If there is 1 melee and 1 long-ranged, use Falling Star Hammer to interrupt the long-ranged one's attack. When the melee one comes close, use Repel. Pull the long-ranged one's aggro first. If there are 2 melee ones, use Descending Phoenix Hammer and then repel one of them. Establish the remaining one's aggro. Do you understand? The knight's cheeks streamed with tears, giving me this sort of step-by-step leading. Do you think I'm stupid? Chapter 45, Original Strategy. 38-71. This was their clear time that Yishu made with Endless Night and the others. This was a very normal time. All of the ordinary 5-man parties cleared Frost Forest in around 30 minutes. There was nothing to say about the time, but Endless Night was fuming with rage and grinding his teeth the entire time. They really did give away the leading fee for free. From the start to finish, Lord Grimm never stopped to direct them. But instead instructed them like how he did to the knight. He simply explained to them the ordinary strategy. If the four of them were newbies, then they would have benefited from this. But to Endless Night and the others, they ran that dungeon for nothing. In the entire course of the dungeon, they couldn't see anything especially remarkable about him. In the end, he led the four of them especially oppressively. They were also considered experts, but this strategy was entirely ordinary. It really made them look like idiots. Endless Night felt that Lord Grimm intentionally faked it, so he made mistakes on purpose to arouse the great expert's inner qualities. Instead, the great expert patiently explained what Endless Night's mistakes were. You should do this, this and this. Hearing his three brothers sneakily laughing up their sleeves, Endless Night understood that he truly was being taken as an idiot. In the end, the only remarkable point was that Lord Grimm hadn't changed classes, but still did as much damage as the two DPSers on the team. His weapon wasn't bad at least. But what was this battle lance? Endless Night had never seen it before. Brother, you're trying to cheat us, Endless Night said after exiting the dungeon. How can you say that? Did I lead wrong? Yishu said. Endless Night didn't know what to say. Although his leading was ordinary, there was nothing to pick at, he didn't miss any details. If it wasn't for Endless Night intentionally making mistakes, then nothing would have went wrong with his leading. This at least said that this guy had solid basics. Endless Night tried his hardest to accept this and tried his hardest to believe that the last dungeon run wasn't a waste of time. I benefited from this. I benefited. Are you going to get the white wolf bristles? Yishu asked. Endless Night's cheeks streamed with tears again. This guy was the one who benefited. After receiving the white wolf bristles, Yishu said goodbye and left. Endless Night's character didn't move. The player also sat in front of his computer baffled. Suddenly, someone nearby poked him twice. Endless Night turned his head and saw that it was one of the party members who had just dungeoned with him. On his screen wasn't the game, but instead a post on the Glory forums. Endless Night walked over and then heard that person say, "When I heard him lead, I thought it felt familiar, look here." Endless Night only glanced at it and almost coughed up blood. What F*** King basic skills, what F*** King nothing to pick at, that bastard's leading was straight up from a guide. Not a word different. Of course he wouldn't miss any details. We've been duped, that brother said. 8 white wolf bristles. And in exchange they got 100% clear rate guide with millions of views on the forums. Endless Night felt even more helpless. He had been asking to be duped. The other side didn't ask to dungeon with him, yet he even shamelessly forced it onto him. The other side didn't say he would lead, yet he shamelessly demanded that he led. In the beginning, the other side didn't read from the guide, yet he insisted that the other side instructed them step by step. Step by step? Even with their party of experts, they didn't need to be led step by step. Him putting forward this requirement made his balls hurt. Look, now it really did hurt. Beast, Endless Night grinded his teeth. He went back to his seat and furiously typed to Lord Grimm, "Brother, you're not kind. Did you trick us by using a guide?" "I wouldn't. I wrote that guide," Yishu said. "Really?" Endless Night immediately turned his head and asked that brother, "Who wrote that guide?" That brother clearly hadn't noticed this. He immediately went back to the first post and said, "One autumn leaf." Endless Night was extremely angry. He turned back and continued pounding his keyboard. "What are you boasting for? That guide was written by the god Yi Chu." "Right, that's me." "Shameless. To F*** King shameless." Endless Night was completely speechless. "I have some stuff to do, so I need to go off. Let's get in touch later." Endless Night received this message from the other side. Escape, this was escape. It's 3 in the morning, what stuff do you have to do? Endless Night thought. In the happy internet cafe, Yishu was currently bringing a few bottles of cola to the guests. It was quiet the entire night. At 7 in the morning, the guests began shutting down their computers one by one and left. Yishu's Lord Grimm had leveled to 21. After leaving the beginner village, leveling wasn't as fast. First, the required experience increased by a substantial amount. Second, there was a dungeon entry limit. Although level 20s could limitlessly run the skeleton graveyard in the beginner village, they would find that the experience gained from skeleton graveyard had already been substantially reduced as if they were more than 5 levels above the dungeon. After level 20, apart from dungeons, players had to rely on completing quests and killing wild monsters to level up. At the very front of the 10th server level leaderboards, Yishu saw Blue River, Endless Night, these names, all level 24. Clearly, they all relied on playing in the new server all day and all night in order to attain this sort of achievement. There was a clear difference between these players who were nurtured by their guilds and normal players. Behind these top level 24s, the level 22 and level 23s were almost empty. But level 20, 21 were already the extremely hard-working players in the new server. For example, players like Lord Grimm and Seven Fields. In this short of a time, they were already considered quite crazy. Most of the players still hadn't left the beginner village. Morning, Brother Yi. At this time, the little brothers with the morning shift and the little sister cashier all came to work on time and said hello to Yishu. Morning, Yishu logged out of the game and shut down the counter's computer. Everyone's busy. I'll be getting off work. Okay. After saying hello to everyone, Yishu stretched and returned to the second floor inner rooms. When he opened the door, he heard TV sounds from the living room. Boss, you wake up this early, Yishu said this and entered the room. In the end, he saw the TV on and Chen Guo sleeping on the sofa. She didn't have any blankets covering her and shrunk into a shrimp ball from the cold. Boss, you should go back to your room and sleep. Yishu went over and slapped her twice. Chen Guo flipped over and held a look of intense hate for disturbing her sleep. Yishu was helpless and saw that Chen Guo's room wasn't closed. He went inside to look for something to help cover Chen Guo. He subconsciously judged Chen Guo's room with a few glances. He discovered that the room's floor, walls, and ceiling were all quite new. But on the other hand, the decorations and bed all looked quite old-fashioned. Yishu didn't think too much of it. He took the blanket on Chen Guo's messy bed and covered Chen Guo's body. He turned off the TV and turned around to go sleep in the pitiful storage room.